Welcome to the What I Wish I Knew After Pregnancy Loss podcast. I am your host, Sharna Southan. I am an angel mum, a rainbow mum, a pregnancy loss practitioner, and trauma-informed coach. I created the Institute of Healing Through Pregnancy Loss out of my own experience with loss in the hopes to provide understanding and healing, educating people on pregnancy loss, and creating more women or men in trained support roles. In this podcast, I hope to shed light on what I wish I knew in relation to pregnancy loss, opening up the conversation, breaking the stigma, and bringing real-life stories plus guest experts. Thank you for being here with me today, and let's dive into today's episode.
October is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. This month, we honour and remember the babies gone too soon and stand with families who have experienced the profound grief of pregnancy and infant loss. October 15th is the Wave of Light and is a day of remembrance for those affected by miscarriage, stillbirth, SIDS, ectopic pregnancy, and infant death. To those who are grieving, your babies mattered. Your grief is valid. You are not alone.
Welcome to the podcast, the intersection of pregnancy loss, fertility, trauma, and purpose, having the conversations that should have been happening all along. Today, I have with me Bina Jesani. Did I say that right? Or
Yeah, that was almost good. That's right.
Bina is a pregnancy and baby loss grief coach, helping parents find light after unimaginable loss. She facilitates one-on-one and couples coaching for deep, soulful healing. Where darkness falls, we plant seeds of light. Thank you for joining us, Bina.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Sharna.
You're so welcome, all the way from the UK. Would you love to share with me your story, how it sort of the path that you took to get to where you are today, supporting women and couples through grief and loss?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Sharna. Okay, so for me, look, we're now in 2025. I'm going back 23 years now. So I feel like I've been on this path for quite some time, navigated little different off-roads and got to block ends and joined the path again and gone a different way. Back when I was in my younger days, recently married, we moved into our new home. And naturally, the next step for us, we were thinking of starting a family. And we didn't put too much kind of pressure on ourselves. We just said, should we maybe start thinking about it? Fortunately for us, we fell pregnant very quickly. And at about 5 weeks, when I found out I was pregnant, at the same time I had spotting. So I had to get taken off to the hospital where they did a scan, and unfortunately that pregnancy was an ectopic pregnancy. So it was the fetus, the baby was growing in my left fallopian tube. And within a space of 24 hours, I had the most, roller coaster of events unfolding, of finding out A, I was pregnant, B, I'm bleeding, next minute being told it's not a viable pregnancy, it's in your left fallopian tube, being told that I'm going to have to stay in hospital. All I could think about is, oh, tomorrow I'm going X, Y, and Z, I'm going here and I need to be doing this. I didn't stop and think that this is serious stuff going on. Yeah, and they just literally, by the end of that day, had me wheeled into theatre, had surgery, so I've got a lovely 6-inch laparotomy scar that reminds me every day, and I had the whole fallopian tube removed. A few days later, maybe a week or so later, after recovery in the hospital, I got sent home with a leaflet explaining what an ectopic pregnancy is. There was no further support, there was no follow-up really, apart from my GP surgery. I felt actually absolutely shaken up at that point, not just physically, mentally, emotionally, all of it. I just didn't know where to turn to. And I do actually think that the recovery from my ectopic pregnancy was far more trickier, I would say, than my neonatal death loss that I had a couple of years after that. So it's so interesting. And this was based purely on the support I had around me at the time. So with the ectopic pregnancy, bearing in mind that not a lot of people will have known that I was pregnant in the first place. But all of a sudden, it was quite obvious because I was in hospital, so friends and family knew. And it became like I really don't want to talk about this. But anyway, we then went down a horrendous 4-year fertility journey. And I feel a lot of that was down to possibly me just holding on to so much of this stress. We just could not fall pregnant. I got diagnosed with polycystic ovaries. All I had in my mind was, I don't have a left fallopian tube. How is that going to impact me being able to fall pregnant? And it was constant. I was chasing every month after month, pregnancy test after pregnancy test, and a negative test, and I'd go into a spiral again. And it wasn't probably until I let go, I don't know if I want to use that word, let go, but I just almost gave up, if I'm honest, to point. I was exhausted, and I allowed myself to just have a bit of downtime, and we fell pregnant. Yeah, so we had our daughter, who's now she's now 20. Yeah, so that's just crazy. And then because it took us so long to have her, again, naturally, we were like, actually, let's not leave it too long before we think again to have another baby. We did want to have another sibling for our daughter, and we did want to grow our family, right? And I wasn't working at the time, so we decided to go and try again. Again, we fell pregnant very quickly this time, which was a real surprise, given that with my daughter, it took four years. So clearly there was something there that was blocking that whole sort of energy. Fell pregnant, 40 weeks pregnant, full term, gave birth to my little baby boy on the 8th of November. At his 20-week scan, we knew that his 20-week scan showed that his kidneys were slightly larger than they should be. So they were just going to monitor him after he was born. But other than that, there wasn't anything else that was shown that was going to be a problem. At 38 weeks of pregnancy, I thought I was going into labor because I was getting all the contractions, the pains, the whole day it lasted. Then the same happened with my daughter at 38 weeks, and she was born at 38 weeks. So I didn't think anything of it. But then it all stopped. And then 2 weeks later, at 40 weeks, I went into full-blown labor and gave birth to him. We brought him home, and it was on the 10th of November, so 2 days later in the evening, he passed away. Now, I know that on his medical records, it shows that he passed away in hospital because we obviously called emergency services. He got blue lighted all the way to the hospital. Resus team were waiting on arrival to try and bring him back for us. But in my heart, I know he passed away at home. To the point, this is really weird, but I feel like I can absolutely even pinpoint to the moment that he took his last breath. Yeah, so it's just such a weird thing to be so connected like that and to understand that this has happened at home and not in the hospital. And then after that, oh my goodness, it was just a whirlwind, an aftermath of the storm. It was just, I don't even know how I got through those days, weeks, months even. At what point I started feeling like I was feeling a bit more myself. It was all just blurred into one. Going back home and seeing all his things, his clothes, his little baby cot, it was just really difficult because we'd had him at home with us for a couple of days as well. Still not quite enough time to get all the pictures that I would have wanted with him. So we've only got a few. We don't have one of all four of us as a family at the time. So that was really hard that we didn't have something like that. And then we obviously had the funeral. And it probably wasn't until at least about 9 months later, that we decided to possibly try again and see where we end up this time. And we did try again and fell pregnant again very quickly. This wasn't something, it was almost like if it happens, if it doesn't, I'm not going to be, but let's try. And yeah, we fell pregnant and we had our second rainbow baby, who is now 17, almost going on 18. Could you see your daughter? Yeah, and there's lots of emotions from that as well. Like that pregnancy after I'd lost my son Krishan, of those first 2 days with her, that was really difficult, trying to understand that as well. Yeah, so it's just been a bit of a journey, and I guess the last 19 20 odd years, I've been naturally, I find myself connecting in this space, talking to other bereaved parents or friends and family going through like the fertility journey for themselves. And yeah, it's something I'm passionate about. I find that the coaching, actually homing in on grief coaching, and in particular pregnancy and baby loss grief coaching, is almost like my purpose, my calling. And I'm here to not direct family, not direct clients, sorry, to a particular end or path. It's almost needs to find their own path. It's not one size fits all after loss. So it's making sure that I'm really understanding what their journey is. This is my journey, and I took the path that I took to my where I am right now, 20 years later. Everybody's go through different routes. So it's just holding space and guiding and walking beside, not walking in front of and not pulling them along a certain path, not pushing them from behind in a certain way, just walking beside them one step at a time. Just shine the light only enough for them to see the next step. It doesn't matter that they can't see the whole path ahead of them. It doesn't matter as long as they can see what the next step is and just keep moving with them. And so, yeah, in a very quick nutshell, I don't know if that was quick, but yeah, absolutely.
No, I really do appreciate you sharing all of that. You've gone through a lot in your experience. And like I said before we jumped on as well, it's because of your experience that you're able then to support people in a way that I guess most traditional therapy or counseling is going to be able to support them, because you can sit there and you're like, I actually know what you're
Yeah.
feeling. I do know what you're feeling, as opposed to reading something from a textbook.
Yeah, I think just having your own lived experience of something like this, it helps you connect with the client that you're working with for sure.
Mm.
I'm not sure if I think still everyone will feel different feelings and have different ways of processing and going through this. But yeah, definitely, I think it just helps connect with the client that actually I do understand.
Mm.
And it's not me looking at it from the outside in and saying, okay, maybe you should try this, maybe you should try that. It's through my lived experience of what I've done that I could give some guidance. And I did find that actually after I lost my son Krishan, I was actually offered bereavement counselling for quite some time. And it was all the way through until my younger daughter Aisha was born. It was very much, I don't feel necessarily that the therapist that I was working with at the time quite understood the sort of the deeper level of what it was that I was trying to, what emotion or what it was I was trying to say to her. Nevertheless, I do think actually that support I had, the one-to-one support I had was incredible. I feel really passionate about that actually, that yes, there is strength. There is something about going to group sessions, working with charities and going to their group meetings, being around other bereaved parents, but also going to the same person, one person every single time that is not within your friendship and family circle, somewhere else other than, your world that you can go and just have this conversation to is just priceless. Absolutely. It just helped me on my journey moving forward. Yeah, quite some bit. So that's something I feel really passionate about.
Yeah. And like you said, it's finding someone that understands, someone that really gets what you're going through and can support you through that. And sometimes it's most of the time it's not going to be friends or family, unfortunately. It
Mm,
most of the time it is someone that we're going to have to seek on the outside of us. And yeah, don't get me wrong, I went and saw a psychologist as well after my loss, because
mm,
it was such a big experience and I didn't know how to process it. So you do need those people sometimes to help you just get off the floor, because your whole world has just shattered. But then to seek someone that can really, like you said, it's layered, it's nuanced. Our experience the emotions, the layers of what women are going to be going through from pregnancy loss to baby loss. Like you said, it's different. Everyone has their own different journey, different path, but there's a common thread that goes through it.
Yeah.
And there's so much to be said for finding the person that can help you through that, or finding the support that can help you through that. Did you want to, because you had a couple of losses that was, like you said, the ectopic was quite hard for you to navigate.
Yeah.
Because, and I feel like sometimes because it's our first loss, first experience with loss as well, we don't know, not that you ever know, there's no rule book, there's no something that you could follow, but you're thrust into this world where you have all of this stuff just coming at you. And you're like, you're emotional, you're grieving, you have all of this stuff happening inside of you. And for you, you had to make decisions quite quickly as well, and not really fully maybe understand what was happening. Did you want to share how you were able to help yourself navigate that physically, emotionally, and maybe how that, maybe there was tools or something that you used as well when you were going through your loss with Christian?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about, if I think about all three losses, so I had the ectopic, then neonatal loss with Krishan, and then after we had our younger daughter Aisha, there was a early miscarriage at 12 weeks. And I feel that you're absolutely right that through all three of these events that happened in my life, God, the speed at which it comes at you, there is sometimes not even a moment to stop and think. And you are where one of the things I noticed really about me, I am a bit of a control freak at times. And what I noticed in all three scenarios was that loss of control. And that's what I was struggling with, the fact that I felt so out of control. And it was the realization in those moments, actually, in all three losses, was that in true honesty, as much as I think I have full control of my life. I certainly do to some extent. I choose who I'm going to be interacting with and what I'm going to be doing and where I'm going to spend my day. Actually, I don't have the ultimate control of my life. There's certain things that you just have to allow for these things to happen, and you just respond. And this is what was happening in all three scenarios. So the people around me, all three times, be it close family, close friends, conversation. So in the initial stages of all three losses, obviously immediate interaction would be through healthcare professionals, and it would be from that immediate circle of family that are around me. So there was a lot of leaning on each other. There was a lot of, and you don't know if it's the first time I'm going through something, I don't know what to expect. I don't know what's right, what's wrong. Culturally, religiously, is there something I should be doing a certain way when Christian died? I don't know. I don't know these things. So there was a lot of leaning on what parents might have said about, okay, in our culture, we'll do this, we do that. And there was a part of me that felt like, yeah, that I felt that if I had the strength at the time and a bit more time to think about actually what is it that I want, not what tradition says or not what society says, or not what, I don't know, a relative thinks that I should be or should not be doing. So that is probably something that I would say, that if you can, if there is a way to just slow the thought process down and try to work out what it is that you want in that situation. And I give you an example, Sharna. This is something I was thinking about this morning, actually. The night when Christian died, he was in hospital. I'm in hospital. My husband's there. And then both sets of the grandparents came to the hospital as soon as they could be there, and they heard the news, they came. And we were in the family room and we were all together. And then we went back over to where Christian was on the ward, and he was laid out on an adult-sized table, like bed, sorry, not a table, a bed. And My mother-in-law, father-in-law, they sat down. My mum, my dad sat down. My husband was there. I couldn't really focus on any of them apart from my baby. All I saw was my baby was on that bed, and I went towards my son and picked him up because there's no way I'm going to sit down without holding him in my arms. And I picked him up and I had him in my arms and I was just cradling him. And I was obviously absolutely broken at this point, in tears. I don't even know what I was thinking, but I was just holding him, cradling him, looking at him, and I was kissing him and kissed his cheek, kissed his forehead. And it was really weird because at the time my mum said to me, she said, "Oh, don't do that." And I was like, and at the time I didn't think it through. And I just, and she made a comment about attachment. Don't attach yourself too much. He's gone. That's what she was trying to say. And it was probably, yeah. And it wasn't at the time. I pulled away a little bit and I stopped because I thought, oh God, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. But it's naturally what I felt like I wanted to do. So my biggest kind of thing that I would say to any parent that's grieving is you have to do what you feel is the right thing for you to do, because if you don't, then later down the line, you might turn back and say, oh gosh, I wish I hadn't listened to that person, or I wish I didn't do that, and I wish I'd done this, and I should have done this, and and yeah, but that particular moment, it really stuck out for me because it changed my behavior in that moment of the deepest grief. We've just found out he's passed away, he's in my arms, and I couldn't really hold and do what I wanted to do. And then I think as a result of that moment, and I'm sure my mum meant well, she was now worried for me, her baby, thinking, oh my goodness, how do we protect her? How do we stop her from going down this big hole? So she was saying all these things. But actually, thinking about it much later on, I think mum has never been through a pregnancy loss, baby loss, not that I know of anyway. But even if she did, I'm sure she would have said it by now through my sort of losses. So how would she know? How would she know that actually, no, as a grieving mother in that position, the only thing you possibly want to do is just hold and hug and cradle and kiss your baby. But what happened in that moment actually also impacted how I reacted the next day when I then got readmitted into hospital. They were then worried that I might have an infection or something, so they just wanted to keep me in. But the next morning, when the nurses and doctors came into the room and they're checking on me, they asked if I wanted to see my baby. And I couldn't help but shift that sort of whatever it was that mum had said to me about detachment, attachment, move, don't get too close, don't, he's gone, all this kind of stuff. And I refused to have him in the room with me because I was so scared of how he will look, feel. Even in that short time that I did hold him, I could tell he was so cold and I was so afraid. And it was almost like I needed somebody there beside me to say, this is what to expect if we do bring him into the room. And this is how it has helped other people. It's just things like that that I feel that is so needed in these little moments, in the initial moments of that loss. And then tools that I've used as time has gone on over the years. Oh gosh, I've done a lot of work inwards on myself around not being stuck in a place where I'm just hurting and hurting and hurting from this grief. It's how am I now approaching my anniversary, the 19th anniversary of Krishan's birth and death in November. What sort of things I can start putting into place. Okay, how do I want that day to look? How do I want it to feel? What sort of, it's not going to be all tears. It's not going to be that I've moved into a different sort of way of dealing with that sort of grief. So yeah, sorry, I just feel like I've gone off tangent.
No, you didn't.
Yeah,
No,
I'll just pause.
no, completely fine. I was actually really liking listening to your story because it is so important to honor honor you in all of that, because you, like you said, you are the one that matters. You don't want to look back over that one time or that 5 minutes that you had or that hour that you had with them or the 2 days that you had with them or however long it was. You don't ever want to look back and go, I wish I had done that differently, but I showed up differently because someone told me to.
Mm.
Or I didn't feel my emotion. I didn't feel my grief because someone shut me down. I didn't cry
Yeah,
because someone told me I couldn't cry.
yeah, yeah,
You need to do you. You need to look,
yeah,
and whatever that instinct is for you,
yeah.
regardless, it needs to be for you.
Yeah, and I think it also goes, I don't know, it's not just that sort of initial moment of when you found out that your baby has passed away or your that first few hours. It could last for days, weeks, months, even years of you navigating this and feeling how you're feeling. And it's absolutely okay to fall apart as many times as you need to fall apart to build yourself back up again.
Mm.
And we've all have to be okay with doing that, first of all, and not shying away. Or if, somebody has said, oh, how come you're still feeling like that? It's 3-4 months down the line. Or I don't know. You don't let others influence how you're reacting. If an emotion is coming up for you, there's a reason it's coming up for you. You have to let it come up and you have to work through it and you have to allow it to happen. Now, I say to you that, okay, on Krishan's 19th kind of birthday anniversary, I'm not going to be falling apart. I'm going to make it a joyous event. I'm going to do something that makes me happy. I guarantee you I'm going to be in floods of tears. And I know that. But there's no other way I would rather be. And that's okay if that's one day. And that's not to say that I don't cry other days of the year about him or over him. That's one day in the year that I allow myself to feel and behave and do whatever it is that I feel like doing, whether it's a quiet day to myself, going through all his things, open up his box and go through all his memories, keepsakes, just to touch things that he once touched and belongs to him, to feel close to him. Or maybe, I don't know, is it that you just want to get away and you want to have a little, I don't know, go on a walk, or you want to go be in a particular place that's going to bring you some kind of peace? And so what if you break down in tears? You're allowed to. You don't have to say anything either when somebody comes to you to say, are you okay? You don't have to explain anything to anyone. And that's how I feel that I handle these moments that I'm coming up with, especially because as I went through my losses, yes, there were moments that I felt like, am I too much for some people? Is my grieving getting in the way of my friendships or my relationships? I don't want to keep talking about this to other people. So how am I going to deal with this in my own sort of way?
It's Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, and I'm grateful for it. A time when loss is acknowledged, when bereaved parents feel less invisible, when people light candles and say names of babies gone too soon. But bereaved mums don't only need support in October, they need it in February when everyone else's babies are turning 1. In May when Mother's Day feels like a knife. In November when they're meant to be glowing and pregnant. In March when the due date passes unmarked by anyone but them. 1 month of awareness is beautiful, but it's not enough.
One in 4 pregnancies will result in miscarriage. 1 in 8 women will experience infertility. 1 in 100 women will experience recurrent miscarriage. And 1 in 160 births end in stillbirth. Have you been wanting to make a difference in the lives of women or men who have experienced pregnancy loss because you can see so many suffering in silence, but you just don't know how? Collectively, we can change how bereaved parents can access mental, physical, and emotional support after their experience. There is a lot of women with unhealed trauma, and there is a huge gap in the current support system when it comes to bereaved parents' recovery after loss. There are too many women and men suffering in silence. The Pregnancy Loss Practitioner Certification is a worldwide, one-of-a-kind program that gives you proven methods designed for healthcare professionals, medical staff, midwives, nurses, doulas, birth workers, coaches, and angel parents alike. The Pregnancy Loss Practitioner certification is bridging that gap. It will give you a proven support structure to follow and education specific to pregnancy loss, created by a lost mum. It is creating more education specifically for loss so that you can enhance your service and become the point of difference. Or you can create the support that you so desperately needed in your healing after loss. This is the next level of growth and expansion you have been searching for. So does this sound like something that you have been searching for? Let's explore this more together. You can head to the episode show notes where you'll find the program application, or direct message me on Instagram and let's open up the conversation in how you can use this education. You have a gift, and I look forward to supporting you and witnessing you bring your gift to the world, healing and transforming women's lives. It's a really hard, and you don't ever foresee that happening. Like, you think some friends you're going to be friends with forever, and then something like this happens.
Yeah.
And those
And
friends.
Oh no, God, sorry.
Oh, no, I was going to just say those friends don't know how to be there then, or to hear you, to witness you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there does come a time, I feel, Sharna, that with friendships or even relatives, that some people will choose to just not bring up the loss of your baby. And that is hurtful, because I think as a bereaved parent, yeah, I feel like, gosh, he was and he still is such an important person in my life. So why would somebody not just acknowledge that he isn't here and be brave to just check in and say, are you okay? However, I have learned over the years that it's okay that certain people don't. It's probably just not within their sort of, I don't know, their capacity to be able to do something like that. They've never gone through something like this. They don't know how to handle it. And it's not about them anyway. It's about me and my baby and my loss. There absolutely, I feel, is strength in having conversation with your family and friends around you about your loss, and not to completely break it off, because then you're creating more of that distance for them to ever feel comfortable to ask you about the loss. So it is important to have that. But then there does naturally come a time, and however long that takes, where every conversation you're having with, let's say, a friend isn't always about the loss of your child. You've moved on to other things and you're talking about other things again. But as and when it does pop up in conversation, let it. And don't shy away from bringing up your baby's name. Speak it out loud. Every time I speak out Krishan's name out loud, there is so much healing in it. And it's amazing how many conversations over the 19, 20 years now, he comes up in conversation in different forms, in ways. And whenever he does, I just think, oh, what a beautiful thing. That was his way of just letting me know that he's there.
Yeah.
He's just popped up in conversation with something. It doesn't have to be a full-blown conversation about him. But there is definitely, and I've done a post on this on my Instagram account, a post about healing from hearing your story through somebody else. There is absolute deep healing. I had a moment where after Krishan died, me and my two sisters, we got together and we just had a moment where we were together, and that was probably the first time, and it was a few months after he'd passed away, that we actually probably got to sit down and talk about him in depth. And the whole lunch was talking about him. But what was interesting for me is what I found so healing was for me to stop, but hear my story through their eyes. What happened for them? What was it like when they heard the news? Where were they? How did who called them? Because there's so many things that I don't know. And it's almost, I want every single memory that I can possibly find of Krishan, every picture that anyone has ever taken of him, I want to see it. And it's a bit like that. I want to know these fragments of my story through their eyes, of how it felt for them, what conversations they had with who, because I'm then stuck in hospital. So can you imagine the following day, the aftermath in my house, I'm not even aware of what's going on, and phone calls coming into the house, and do I need anything? I'm just oblivious to all of that. So they shared all of this with me of, oh, and then this person called, and then I had this conversation, and then this happened. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's almost, yeah, it's finding the fragments of your story and just getting a whole picture of it. There's definite healing in that process. So I'm not saying that, oh, counseling, therapy, coaching is the way that you should only think about. Friends, family, absolutely, they play such an important part, and they can help, but they can also sort of not help. There'll be many moments you think, oh God, I wish I hadn't started that conversation. But yeah, but I did find, especially after losing Christian, when I had the sort of the bereavement therapy, it was very specific, and it was very my space, my time and my space to go and talk and say whatever it was that was on my mind related to my loss and how I was feeling and how I was progressing and stepping forward. Which direction was I going in? All these conversations. Yeah. And that's just me as a mother. Let's not forget the dads, the fathers, what they go through. Because from what I could see, when I replay my story in my head over and over, in that story, my husband Suresh has got a very different role. Yes, he's the bereaved dad. He's feeling so many intense emotions, but from what I can see, he's functioning in a different way to me. He's holding conversation, he's able to show up in places differently to how I'm showing up. So it's a minefield. So again, that's another reason why I feel really passionate about this bereavement for bereaved parents. You're journeying through this as individuals, but you're also in this together as well. So how do you work on your relationship again to be back on path together as a couple? But also, actually, what does that mean for you both individually? Because when the bereavement therapy was offered to my husband, I almost dragged him along to one of the sessions, because in my head, he wasn't talking about it. He was not addressing the elephant in the room. And there I was going every single week and addressing it. And I just felt angry that he wasn't doing that. And I felt, why not? I dragged him to one of the sessions, and I realized now that was probably not the right thing to do. He sat there the whole session and he absolutely uttered nothing. He said nothing at all. Any question he was asked by the therapist, his response was yes, no, maybe, or just a shrug of the shoulder. When he was asked if he felt that this therapy was useful for him, he, without any further thought, he just said no. So I just thought, my goodness, okay, I've dragged this poor man into this session, and it just needed to be a different space for him. That was not the right thing for him. There is something about some kind of therapy, coaching, whatever you want to call it, for each individual, but then also as a couple. So that's something that I'm passionate about. And through my coaching, if clients have, let's say, booked 12 sessions, then quite often they may say, oh, maybe 4 or 5 of those get taken up by mum, and then another 2 or 3 taken up by their partner, and then maybe a few as a couple. Or it could be, no, just the one parent, and that's it. There's no right or wrong, whatever feels right for you as an individual and as a couple as well. So that's, yeah.
It is really important because when talking about your husband, like my husband would have refused. He would have been the one sitting in there going, why am I even here?
Yeah.
Not to say my husband has sat in on, we've done therapy as couples before, and he's been quite vocal in them. But with that in particular, it's just almost this stigma that they can't be seen as the one that's going to be emotional or hurt or showing grief or any signs of quote unquote weakness in any way. I know he opened up to me probably 6 months after my husband did to me in my subsequent pregnancy, but it made me think, it made me reflect over my experience. And like you said, you see them showing up in a certain way. My husband was like, the nurse in ED that we had was, she was beautiful. She was beautiful to me. She was so good with him. But making him laugh, cracking jokes with him, and he's laughing away, and while I'm sucking on the morphine for contractions. But he watched everything. He experienced everything, and he was trying to control so much. But it's like you've said before, you're trying to control something that you cannot control. There is so much that's just going to unfold anyway. And he couldn't control it. So he felt helpless and scared and afraid, and just watching it all.
I was that hungry.
Watching it all play out, I never sat and thought about it. I was consumed with my story, how I was feeling internally, physically, emotionally. But when I stopped, it would have been probably 6 months into my subsequent pregnancy, which probably would have been close to almost a year after our loss. I sat and reflected over what he went through, and it actually brought me to tears, because I was like, he witnessed everything and he didn't tell me how scared he was until that time. And there's so much to be said. Like, they don't have to say anything in a session, but just to know that they have that available to them. They have a safe space that they can go and they can express what's heavy for them in a non-judgmental way. They're not going to be, they don't have to put on the mask themselves. Like, they don't have to put on anything. They can just show up. But I think it's also trying to figure out how to communicate within the partnership as well when your partner doesn't talk much. So trying to help break down those barriers as well, to open up the communication, because when we assume the other person is or should be feeling a certain way or showing up in a certain way because it's different to how we're showing up, that's where a lot of everything can break down. You can become quite angry towards each other because you're like, why are you not crying? Why are you not grieving? Why are you back at work? I don't understand. But then trying to talk to a person, and that doesn't really have many words in how they communicate, can be really difficult too. Being able to do that and learn that for yourself, it's super important too. But I love how you bring and offer not only the one-on-one, like the individual support, because that's so important, but as the couple as well, because obviously that's where a lot of the relationships can break down and those partnerships fall apart. Bina, I would love for you to share where people can find you. Is there anything else that you wanted to share before we wrap up? Is there something that you wished you knew before experiencing pregnancy loss?
Oh, Sharna.
Everything.
Everything, every single bloody thing I wish I knew before the pregnancy loss. Do you know what I would like to say is one of the things that resonates for me with the three losses that I had: ectopic, neonatal death, and then an early miscarriage. Do not underplay the grief that you're going to feel, regardless of what stage that loss was at. And I found this came up a lot for me after I lost Krishan, which was people naturally, if they've heard and they've brought him up, they've brought the conversation up, and then they've said, sorry, did you just hear that car going past?
It's a very noisy car.
Sorry. Just realised that I should have kept that window shut. Yeah, sorry, what was I saying? Yeah, so this was something that was brought up so many times, Sharna, and I really struggled with how to answer this. When we lost Krishan, obviously that was full term, baby in the arms, back home for 2 days, and then passed away. So everybody knew, and they would say to me, I felt that people came out of the woodworks with their losses at this point, and people, oh, so and so had a miscarriage, or oh, I also lost my baby, but it was very early on. It was, and then they would add, but it was nothing compared to your loss.
Mm.
So immediately, what they've done is they've put some kind of hierarchy in place that because they had an early pregnancy loss, my loss was a neonatal death, they've put that on some kind of hierarchical order and saying that my grief and my loss is so much more worse than theirs. And I understand why they are saying that on different levels, like physical, in terms of seeing the baby, naming the baby, having the baby. And maybe that was very different if it was a really early loss, like my ectopic loss. Don't even know what happened to that. No idea. There was no sort of ceremony, memorial, nothing. It just got taken away with the tube. And I was like, where's my tube? Can I see it? You know, it was like, my goodness, I can see why they do that. But you know what? My sort of thought around the time was, how do I respond to that? Yes, I was feeling really in deep grief at the time, but how do I say back to that person or that soul that your loss is just as valid as mine? It does not matter that you lost your baby at 12 weeks of pregnancy and I lost mine at 40 days, 40 weeks plus two days. Do you see what I mean? Or I don't know, like parents who might lose their child much later on in life, in like younger years, or even as an older child. A loss is a loss, isn't it? And your child is your child at no matter what stage you've lost them. So yeah, my sort of thought on this is, where possible, try not to underplay your loss and don't feel that you can't measure up against somebody else's loss. This isn't a game or a race of whose loss is worse. Everyone is in this together. We're all feeling it. We're all feeling those emotions, and we're all going to take our time and our paths to get back on track, to do whatever it is and go forward in life where we're meant to be doing what we're meant to be doing. Yeah, that's just some thoughts that I had around that. And it's something that I don't wish that anybody ever needs help and support with, but I know in the heart of heart that's not the case. And I do know that there have been so many after me, and then there were so many before me that have gone through what I've gone through and am still going through. It doesn't just stop at a certain stage. I'll be going through this for the rest of my life, for sure. So yeah, I just feel that my heart wishes that no one ever needs to reach out to me. But if you do, then yes, I'm on Instagram, Bina Jesani. And on the Instagram account, actually, do you know what? I'm sharing posts around topics and things related to pregnancy, baby loss, but through my post, I also tell my story also. And if anything, even if that's the only sort of support that somebody needs, and that's fine, that's great that some of my content might be reaching somebody and helping them in their moment of grief. There is also, you can contact me through my website, so binajasani.com, sorry. Gotta get that right. Binajasani.com. So yeah, and on my website is a little bit more deeper layered of what I do, what I offer, how I work. And my favorite part of the website is actually my blogs. So a couple of years ago, I started writing blogs, and I found writing as a way of therapy for me and healing. And these were sharing, when I mentioned earlier on, I replay in my head this vision of this is what happened. So my blogs are a certain day that I want to write about, be it the day he was born. I've written about his funeral. I've written about the day, the morning after he died that night, and the morning after. That's not even a full one. I've just written something short. So it just depends on what I was feeling for that year. But I usually post a blog on his birthday. Now, it's not something that I've been doing for 19 years, so I don't have 19 blogs, but it's something I only started a few years ago. And then I stopped in the middle because I don't know, I was posting it on Facebook and I felt really uncomfortable that it was reaching, I don't know who. And yeah, it just didn't feel like the right place. So I took it down. So I love the fact that I've now got a website and I've got a space for these blogs to go on. And again, it could be that just reading them, there's some healing in just reading those. And then if you feel that actually you'd like to work with me to get some sessions, then actually the first step is we don't even go straight into the sessions. The first step is for us to just connect and have a conversation and see where we're at and see if we connect and whether or not we can put something more structured that's in place to help you find your path ahead. Yeah, that's it, Sharna.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing everything that you have, your story so openly, and also for being able to use your story and your experience to step into that support role. It takes a really special person to be able to use that then and feel that is their purpose in life, is to now support other people and shine the light on their path.
Yeah, I feel so aligned to it, Shanna. And it's not, yeah, probably, like I said earlier on, this isn't something that I've just woken up and thought, oh, I know what, let me start doing this. It's something I've been doing for the last kind of 20 odd years, just walking beside parents and be it family, friends, whoever is connected through their stories. And yeah, maybe recently I've been a little bit more actually, I feel so alive when I'm working in this space and talking about this and having these conversations with bereaved parents that I just think, why would I not be doing this? You know, and that's when I've realized that actually, no, this is absolutely what I was born to do, to just have these conversations with these bereaved parents. And as sad as it is, actually, the reality is every single one of us will go through some shape or form of grief, right? Maybe not all of us will experience pregnancy and baby loss, but grief will touch all of us at some point in our lives. And I just naturally find myself in that space. People that I have helped, supported with, it's not just pregnancy and baby loss. The weird thing is, so I don't know if I've got this kind of just magnetic attraction to grief and people who are going through sort of things in their lives and working through whether it's grief around relationships, grief around friendship, or grief around work environment. There's all sorts of stuff that I've been helping people with. But yeah, I think pregnancy and baby loss grief coaching, the reason why I put myself out there like that with that sort of specific area is through my lived experience. But yeah, so if it feels right for you, then please do reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will always say our lived experience plants the medicine that we're meant to share for the world. Not all of us are going to share it with the world, but it becomes that natural, like you just said, that natural magnetism. It's that natural thing that you end up supporting people with just in everyday conversation. And when we are able to take it to the next level, when we are able to really put ourselves out there and go, you know what? Here I am, world. This is actually what I'm here to do. And I know that this is so needed. And positioning yourself as a pregnancy loss and baby loss coach it is so needed. It's like you said, it's a very specific and nuanced grief, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to have conversations with other people around grief in general anyway. It's just it's your medicine. It's what people are drawn to you for. They naturally seek out, there's something that how you show up and how you talk, that they are like, I need to talk to Bina about this. I need to open up. And they naturally, I've had it too where people are like, I don't even know why I'm telling you this, but they end up just spilling their life story
Yeah.
of all the challenges and heartaches that they've had. And they're like, they've just met you. But it's because of your energy. It's because of the way that you show up, because of your experience. It becomes the medicine, the magic that you share.
And there's definitely something in, I think there's a soul to soul connection. Our souls, this is probably a different topic for a different day on the podcast, but I genuinely really do believe that our soul knows what it needs to get through this life. And yeah, it will connect with the right souls at the right time when you're on your path to get you to where it is that you need to be. But yeah, that's like a different topic, I guess, for a different day.
I totally agree with you though. I know we're meant to people are put on our path for a reason. We're meant to cross paths with people with souls for a reason. I don't believe in meeting people by chance or having random people put into your path by chance. It's definitely, like you said, it's for a reason, and our souls know. I guess it is a topic for another conversation, because it's all about in our soul's contract. Like, it knows.
And
It knows.
when the work's done, no matter how hard you try to reconnect or keep that person in your life or what have you, they've moved on,
Yeah.
or you've moved on.
Yeah.
So it's just such an interesting thing. Yeah.
But we could talk forever if we're going to go down that path.
Yeah, this has been really good. Yeah, lovely. Thank you, Sharna, so much for allowing me to be on this with yourself, and yeah, just creating this space where we could just come together and have such an open conversation that feels so natural, and it doesn't feel pulled or pushed in any way. And it's, yeah, I just hope that it's useful for all those that are going to be listening to this, really.
Yeah, it absolutely will be. I know, like you've said in your blogs, just in someone reading what you do or in your experience and someone hearing you talk about it, it's going to be healing on some level. And just to know that you're able to take them that one step further as well. So just hearing your story isn't the end. There is support for them, and they can reach out to you.
Yep, 100%.
And I will pop Bina's information in the show notes. If you are searching for her, she'll be one click away in the show notes. So there shouldn't be any issues. Definitely reach out to her, connect if you feel aligned, and just open the conversation, because this is why we're here. Going to be breaking the stigma, going to be changing the conversations and providing more healing spaces for women for now and for future generations.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you again for being here and being a part of the podcast.
Thank you for listening in with me today.
Thank you, Sharna,
I hope you
for
found
having me.
this episode helpful.
So welcome.
If you did, I would absolutely love to hear from you.
Thank you to
Take
all
a
that have
screenshot
listened
of this
in.
episode,
If
share it to
was
social
valuable
media,
to you,
and tag
invite you
me
to leave
at
a review
Institute
on
of
Apple
Healing
Podcasts, and I look forward to
_PL.
supporting you
I
on the
love
next
seeing what is
episode.
resonating with you right now. If you want to chat further, I invite you to connect with me through Instagram. Head over and follow my Instagram account, send me a DM, and let's open the communication. If you want to know more about how you can be the support for others, head to the show notes and fill out the application form for the Pregnancy Loss Practitioner certification. I want to also note here that what I share within the episodes is not medical advice. If you need further support, please consult your doctor. Thank you again. Much love to you. Be gentle with yourself, and I look forward to supporting you on the next episode.